Hi, Colette. How are you?
Hi, Bonnie. Thanks so much for your interest in the work and for putting this all together.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you doing this. I just want to tell people we met that are listening that how we met, and that was through your soundings project. I saw that happening in at at Oak Cliff Cultural
Mhm.
Center. I'm just checking my sound. And I was like, I want to be a part of that. And so I was really compelled to come down and do something I've never done before, like something so out of my comfort zone. And people will see, that are watching this, what it's all about, and some of your other projects today. You set up a very special prompt and just allowed me to speak that prompt, what I chose, and you did that for everybody. And then you mixed it in such a beautiful way to present it. And so I'll let you talk more about that. But I just want to read your bio briefly because it's so rich and it brings me to my first question. Um, Inspired by Dada and Fluxus, Colette Copeland is an interdisciplinary visual artist whose work examines issues surrounding gender, death, and contemporary culture. Sourcing personal narratives and popular media, utilizes video, photography, sound, performance, and sculptural installation to question societal roles and pervasive influence of media and technology on our communal and cultural enculturation. Her performance videos employ experimental narrative techniques to explore the landscape of human relationships and address pressing environmental concerns. She received her BFA from Pratt Institute in New York and her MFA from Syracuse University. She is the recipient of a Leeway Foundation Award for Art and Change and the 2020 Kevin Mullins Memorial Award and was awarded a Fulbright Scholar Research Award for 2023-2024, researching and writing about contemporary female artists in India. So that's all completely amazing. Um, when I first learned about you and had read this, I know your background at that time, well, when you were studying, this covers quite a few years, was in photography. And so that brought me to my first question, because I've always been interested in how artists use the body or transition from one media into multimedia and performance and visual art and all of the things you're doing with again the overlap of performance and photography, but film and recording and presenting this. So can you talk about that transition and why it was important for you?
Sure. I discovered photography at Pratt in undergrad, and I was a fashion major, so photography was just a passion and a love and a way to create because despite having many classes in drawing, I can't draw, I don't paint, um, and I don't usually sculpt in a traditional sense. And so photography was my outlet. And I had a job I started while I was in undergrad and continued afterwards, where I was the studio manager for a commercial photography studio in what is now known as Chelsea. At the time, it was the kind of flower and fur market.
Oh, okay.
And so I witnessed a lot of different types of commercial photographers and how they work, and I think it was a great job for a young person. I met a lot of people, it was very fun. It made me realize that I did not wanna pursue commercial photography, like, I was interested in the fine art expressive side of it, and, I wasn't sure that that was a viable way to make a living. So, fast forward, I worked in corporate America for a number of years, and then when I decided that I wanted to go back, to get my MFA, I was already in my mid-30s. I had 2 children, and the portfolio that I had was photography, And so while that allowed me access to get into graduate school, and I was also really fortunate because um, I think my life experiences really helped kind of frame my grad school experience as opposed to some of my other colleagues who were kind of straight in from undergrad and they didn't have necessarily a lot of life or work experience yet. But I knew as soon as I got into grad school that photography, I feel like I'm really at heart, I'm a storyteller, and that I felt very limited by the photograph as a single image. And so, and plus, I wanted to study everything else while I was there, except photography, much to the dismay of a couple of my grad school advisors. So I took video art classes. I also took sculpture classes, including casting in the foundry, and um, and really focused on installation because I could incorporate sound, I could incorporate moving image, I could incorporate objects, all in responding to a three-dimensional environment.
Yeah.
So that transition really happened in grad school, and I would say today photography is still foundational to my practice. I try to take a photograph every day. Sometimes I post them, sometimes I don't. But I feel like it's part of my, I'll say, my moving meditation. Often I'm walking in nature. I'm not considering these photographs to be art per se, but it's a part of creative journaling, so to speak. And also when I am making short films or having documentation done for a performance, uh, oftentimes my the way that I uh, film is rooted in photography. And what I mean by that is that a cinematographer or somebody who's trained in film, they're going to be trained in thinking about like what the end is going to be. And there's a cinematic structure that is very different from the structure of video. And so oftentimes I have a static frame, meaning the frame is not moving and all of the action is happening within that frame. So that would be a very example of a
Yeah,
photographic,
that-
kind of formal
that's
aesthetic.
a very good explanation. Yeah, I appreciate that. Oh, that really tells a lot. And it's inspiring because, I think about the movement and the sculptural aspects of what you're making happen in the storytelling. And um, it's wonderful history to think about, like, well, what are these stories you want to tell? What do you want to speak about? And how can you get that out there? So uh so so going next to your soundings project, um, I know you've done this in India and you do it other places, and you've done it in Dallas, and that's the one I was a part of. And people can find all of the recordings on your website. But I just wanted to say that, just that it really choked me up when I started listening to them. And, just the idea of, you know, how we have to temper our sound and our voices, or we feel compelled to hide the things that we are sometimes, or the things that we think, so that we could fit in and, not ruffle any feathers. And, that adds up. And, people feel frustrated, and, they want to be their authentic selves. And um, so I really admire what you're doing and what you've tapped into for people here. And so anyway, I just thought I wanted to say that. And let's start with we picked two of the artists that we're going to listen to just a little bit. And first, this is your homepage on your site, and I just thought I'd have that up for people to see how all you know, your many projects that are here. And first we're going to go, can you pronounce her name for me, please?
Yes, Sharzad Hamza.
So it's very beautiful. So we're just gonna, this is a minute and 41 seconds. Is there anything you want to tell us about her before we start?
Yeah, so I met Sharzad at the University of Texas at Dallas, where she is pursuing a PhD. And I think one of the things that really struck me is she is a dancer, however, who hails from Iran. However, it is illegal for women to dance in Iran. So, you know, the thought of like, not only can you not say what you want to say, but you can't even be who you are meant to be. And so I was really, and she's very multi, she has so much going on as a performer and a poet and a scholar and an activist. And one of the things I was also really interested in for the project is showing the cultural diversity that is in Texas. So people tend to, you know, especially if you look people outside of the country or even outside of Texas, people from different parts of the US. Texas has a very specific mythos of like the cowboy Wild West, right? That still lives on. And so I wanted to show that there were there's a rich diversity of cultures and voices. And so the other thing that I wanted to say before you play it is that I really wanted to focus on female, non-binary, and queer voices because of the political climate and how the laws are evolving, as those voices have always been oppressed and marginalized. However, there is an urgency now, just recently, where it's more important than ever that our voices are heard.
Yeah, thank you so much on that. So we're just going to play a little bit of this from the beginning. So it's beautiful.
Um, Bonnie, you might want to stop. I don't know when you enabled the share screen, did you click on the optimize sound and video because the video or the audio is coming through as garbled?
Oh, no. Okay. Um,
So it's when so you might have to unshare and then
okay.
go, so when you click on the green share arrow at the bottom,
Yeah.
you'll get another window that comes up, and on the right there will be two boxes that you check. One says to optimize sound and optimize video.
Okay, perfect. And so yes, so they both get clicked.
Correct.
Okay. Let's see how this does.
I am used to the discomfort so much, so deep. I can't tell if I'm uncomfortable. I am used to the discomfort so much, so deep. I can't tell if I'm uncomfortable. I am used to the discomfort. I am used to the discomfort so much, so deep. I can't tell if I'm uncomfortable. دوست دشمنی است که هنوز حمله نکرده است. دوست دشمنی است که هنوز حمله نکرده است. دوست دشمنی است که هنوز حمله نکرده است. دوست دشمنی است.
Okay, could you hear that one okay? Perfect. That was so beautiful. It's very touching.
I love what you said earlier about the sound and layering and mixing. So while the whole project is a collaborative community project, I think of myself not as the artist, but as a witness and a facilitator. I also collaborate very closely with sound engineer and composer Mark Menza. And so he is, a magical wonder when it comes to sound engineering. And so we would, after I do the recordings and have the different takes and clips and bring them into his studio. And so my idea was that each person had their own little mini symphony that was released into the universe.
Yeah, he's great. And that layering is just, builds on itself over and over and, very, very beautifully done. And I think I understood a little bit more about it because I participated that, you gave me prompts in different ways. So it might have been slow, it might have been a whisper, it might have been, as loud as possible, while I'm walking, while I'm standing still. So all of these, kind of reverberate and show up as you listen. You can feel it happening for each person. That's awesome. All right, now we're going to it's Rodney. Yes. And so will you tell us a little bit about Rodney?
Yes. So Rodney and I became good friends a few years ago. And he's not an art. So some people are artists, they're creatives, and he is not, but I would argue he really is an artist, even though he's not identifying as such. He's definitely a performer. Um, and I'm also really grateful to him because he had a recording party at his house for me and invited all of his friends. And so, I wouldn't have had access to the queer Black community in Dallas. And everybody was so generous. And,
It's awesome.
and I think that there was, people trusted me because I was Rodney's friend. And so people always ask me, like, how do you find people that want to participate? And I never go through organizations. In India, we tried to do that and it didn't work. And I just feel like word of mouth is the best way. And so I always ask people, do you have a friend who you think might be interested in participating? And then that's how the project grows. It's very organic and kind of grassroots.
And
Um,
do some
yes.
recordings at that party with his friends?
Yeah, so we recorded. It's also like, people that are serious. This drives Mark Menza crazy, but I'm because he knows how to do it the right way. I'm doing like, recording. Sometimes they're on the streets and they're outside, there's out busy. Anyway, interestingly, we recorded in Rodney's garage and it had a very nice acoustical and we could not hear any of the voices from inside. So the
Oh,
soundproofing was really good because obviously when there's a big party going on, it was going to be noisy. I had to have quiet to do
yeah,
the recordings. Yeah.
awesome. So we're going to start this one a little bit later in the recording. Let's see let's do here.
Don't disturb my peace.
Oh, that was short, but very sweet. Like I could almost picture him, like you get this, we have a still image of him, but I could just picture a visual of him, belting that out. So yeah, thank you. That's really nice. What what inspired you? We're going to be moving into your videos, a couple of the videos with you moving and you wearing things. And what first inspired you to like, I mean, it seems, I guess part of my reason is that I ask these things is it feels so brave. Um,
Well, let me just say a couple things about soundings to close for anybody that might be watching or listening.
yeah, please.
So it continues to travel. It's been in Dallas, it's been in San Antonio, Houston, and Austin. It is traveling to Texas Tech in Lubbock starting in August, and it will be there all through until the end of December. And so the project is ongoing. The archive is ever growing. And so I am always looking for people who are interested in participating and recording. So that's one thing. And then also, I don't know if I guess I'm going to say this. I think it's official, but we are having discussions with the theater department at the University of Texas in Austin to do a further collaboration with their sound students so that the students would design a whole new way of experiencing it. So I'm super excited to like take the collaboration even
Yeah.
further. Um, and I think that's going to be really cool. And
What do you
also,
think some of those whole new ways will be? Do you have
I have no idea. They're the
thought?
one that, like they're going to
Okay.
come up with things that my imagination wouldn't have
That's
even
right.
been able to envision. And also, so once somebody is part of a project, like you're always part of it, right?
Yes.
So that like now your voice was in Dallas, but it will continue to travel and people will hear it at all the different iterations of where it's
Wonderful.
exhibited.
Well, when I post this, I will add links to everything. And then if you have new links that come up after, just let me know and I'll add them so people can get in touch
Terrific.
with you.
Okay, so back to the question
Yeah.
about performance.
Hmm.
Um, so, and it's funny that you like call it like brave or whatever. So I think of these characters that I create as alter egos.
Mm.
And so I am not brave in real life. I mean, I feel like I am just subject to the same kind of conformity as, women of a certain generation, that you're brought up to act a certain way and do certain things and like that's what society expects of you. And so for me, these alter egos are able to deconstruct
Mm.
those gender stereotypes,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
they can do things that I couldn't do in my whatever normative life, right?
Hmm.
And so I really do think of them as yes, they're part, I my it's funny because I usually speak about my characters in the third person and then, my children will be like, "Mom, you're talking about yourself in the third person. It's you." And I'm like, "No, it's them because, they're doing these things." So, anyway, but I will say that I have had, these kind of alter egos and I always created imaginary worlds as a child. So in second grade, I had made this puppet out of blue, like fun fur. And his name was Psychedelic, and he came to school with me every single day. And he participated in the classroom activities. He answered questions. He also, like, the teacher let me have a birthday party. Like, that would never happen, in today's,
Hey. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because that would be considered disruptive. But, like, probably in second grade, my very first alter ego was this puppet named Psychedelic.
That's awesome.
And I also had imaginary friends as a child. And so obviously my imaginary friends would also be considered, um, an alter ego. And my mother used to say that my imaginary friend was named Sally. And she said, Sally was always your voice of reason. Like she would, when you were in a bad place, she would, kind of talk you through that, which
Oh,
was really interesting. So some of these characters have then reappeared in my work as as an adult, and yeah, and so I think that the typically I perform for for the camera where, it's a performance video. Although recently I did do my first live performance that was like maybe in 20 years with Erica Felicella. She was teaching a workshop in Dallas, and I was there with a few other very talented performers, and we performed live on site. And so I think that was really important to get me out of my comfort zone, because it's a
Do you
very
think you'll do
different
more of
experience.
that
I
too?
do. Erica is working really hard to revitalize and recreate a performance scene in Dallas. And so I'm committed to be part of that and to
Yeah,
support that initiative,
yeah,
however I can.
that's fantastic. Yeah, that's a whole different realm from, the video, so it's
You
great.
asked about the costumes too, so I will also say, so
Mhm.
um, I was a fashion major in
There's the
undergrad.
connection.
And through high school, again, they would never let you do this today. But anyway, there was those home ec classes that everybody had to take. And I loved to sew. And the teacher let me take 4 years of sewing. So I learned advanced
Oh, that's
dressmaking, I learned tailoring. So by the time I got to fashion school, like I had all the teachers were like, oh my gosh, but I didn't just want to I wish that I would have had, um it was never presented to me that I could do costume
yay.
design
Yeah.
or wearable art, and so I didn't wanna just be like a regular designer. I had held no
Right,
interest
right,
for me,
right. Yeah,
and
it's so hard when you don't know what the options could even
yeah.
be. I think today there's so much more out there that people can cull from and see as, and it's like, yeah. So you couldn't even know that that was an option. And yeah, so
But I
that's,
don't typically make my own costumes
mm,
because part of well, I don't have a sewing machine anymore. I had to throw it away, it broke. But uh, because part of my I should say aesthetic is that I'm also dealing with kitsch and spectacle. And so I usually I buy really kind of awful
oh, that's
costumes
good.
on, off of the internet, and they're usually made in China, and it's like really bad material. And it's also for like the Victorian woman. Like what I had was definitely not period. It was like somebody's idea of what this
Right.
might be.
I love,
And so that's
yeah,
part of the, I think,
mm,
irony,
right.
that I'm dealing with.
Yeah. And I like that what you said about all your alter egos, it's also perfect. All right, so let's share and see your first video. We're gonna start with spirit dance. And I invite everyone to go and watch each of these on I mean, you have many, but um, to watch the full videos, and on your site you have everything listed so nicely. So I chose starting at about here. Let's see. Oops. great. Sorry, I was trying to get it in full screen. It just minimized instead.
That's okay.
So, yeah, you want to tell us more about spirit dance?
Sure. Well, I also want to give a shout out to ECC Performance Art. So it's a European, they're out of the Netherlands, and they offer short 4-week courses, performance art courses with some really amazing instructors. So I have taken a number of those now, and I actually just got to teach one this summer, which was super fun. But it's been really, because we don't have a big performance art community here in Dallas, it's been really wonderful to connect with performance artists from all over the globe. I think Europe is a much stronger scene for performance art, and they get funding and things like that. So this piece was inspired by a class I did on eco performance. And what that means is it's performance art that is responding to environmental issues. And so, and then the piece is also, I need to give a shout out to Carrie Bishop, who is my friend who lives here in Granbury, and she has this ranch that has been in her family for generations. And so I knew, and she's been very gracious. In fact, she also has an alpaca sanctuary. So I have filmed a few times at the alpaca sanctuary as well, dressed like an alpaca. And so I knew I wanted to do a piece in the boneyard. So when you see the bones, so these are the bones of the longhorn cattle. And also Kari is a photographer, and so she has a costume closet, and her studio is like a Wunderkammer. It's a cabinet of curiosities, and she has all of these amazing objects and specimens. So the crow, it is a taxidermy crow, spoke to me, and I knew that the crow was going to be my dance partner. And then I also chose, because I deal a lot with absurdity in my work, what would be more ridiculous on a ranch in the Texas summer with like heat and snakes and, mud and fire ants, is than to be in a white
Yeah, right.
feathered evening gown,
Yeah.
right? And then because I always have to have some element of danger in my work, I decided to wear this is so beautiful. Uh, it's a hood. It's a black kind of jeweled hood, and it obscures my vision. So I had no peripheral vision and very little
Wow.
any other kind of vision, right? So the piece was not choreographed, and I didn't really have a specific idea except that I wanted to honor the land. Like, what does it mean to honor the land, honor all the ancestors, all of the living beings, past, present, and future? And so, and it was an invocation, to the spirits as a way of honoring. And also, both where Kari and I live was originally Comanche land, and so everybody in this area is living on land that once belonged to the indigenous people, specifically the Comanche Nation. So that was also thinking about like how do you honor those ancestors who are not our ancestors, but yet we are now living on the land that was theirs.
Right.
And yeah, so that was the
So, that hood
inspiration.
reminds me of, I think they put a hood on birds sometimes when they want to calm them or, not to. So it's like you were wearing that, the mask that inhibited your vision. And, yeah, thank you for telling us more about that. That's really great. And so did you arrange those bones in the boneyard?
There was already a kind of circle, so yes, I enhanced I enhanced the circle. And then there's another part of the piece where I am walking through the area. So we did a brief walkthrough of the land first, Part of that was to determine like where we were going to shoot, but also it was to let the snakes know that we were there, so please don't come out.
Mhm.
It was also to notice where the fire ant hills are. Um, there's a lot of pricker
Yeah.
bushes, and so those were getting snagged, on the so like the danger is real when you're on a ranch,
Right.
it's not for the faint of heart,
No.
especially if your vision is, obscured. So I was obviously really trusting that, and we didn't, no snakes or ants bit me. So I was trusting that they were feeling the invocation.
Um, so, uh, I mean, I want to see the next video, which is calling the bees, but I had another question after that because it relates to what you were just saying, but just I don't know if it's intentional or it just happens out of the act, but you're putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. And I think that's so healthy, to not to let go of what we consider as safety and always being safe and being fearful of, anything that will interrupt that. And so that's really you're setting yourself up some circumstance to live in.
Yeah, and I think it's also, I mean, I've heard this from many women as they get older that fear starts to creep in. So I also have an aerial circus practice. I've been practicing for 8 years now, and I started when my mom was diagnosed with ALS, and it was an homage to her as she was losing her ability to move. I began to move, intensify my training. And so that is like a really practical way to try and overcome one's fear because, I'm up in the air and then like if you have to let go and trust that, it's going to be okay. So I do try to um make myself face my fears in all of the work. You'll get to Plastifor at the end. I'm not a great swimmer. That one was really challenging. Cocoon, we're going to look at, that was really challenging. I'll talk about Calling of the Bees. That was challenging in a different way.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to push that, but I would say that there is a history of performance artists, both historically and currently, who cause pain intentionally or harm themselves in the as part of the conceptual framework for their, and so that is not part of my practice. So like pushing outside one's comfort zone and facing fear is very, very different than not honoring my body,
Right.
right? And what it can and can't do.
Right.
And so I would never purposely um I'm willing, I'll say, I'm willing to suffer, but not a lot. Like I really want to respect and
There's enough
honor. Yeah,
challenge in not harming yourself that will be harmful because it'll be hard to do or hard not to do something. So, there's enough challenge in that without going, but, I'm sure, for other artists, they have their purpose and reason and vision for what they do.
sure.
Yeah, so we're going to go to calling the bees, and okay, I'm going to let you talk about that. Do you want to talk about it first, or should we watch a little first?
I think if you go up, you remember where it's opening to the right, where it's opening, when you get to this part you want to start,
Yeah.
you can get it to go full screen. You just have to like that thing on the side. You have to double click. Wait, no, not there. Up.
Oh, here.
Yeah, there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then now click in the bottom right of that.
Okay. All right. Yes.
Yeah.
Now we're going.
There
Okay.
you go.
Yeah, I wanted to go like, let me start here. Here we go. so beautiful. So
So that was like the worst costume ever. It was the most unattractive and uncomfortable costume. I felt like I looked like the Jolly Green Giant in it, like a big giant green blob.
and that
Um,
was scary in itself, just getting out there.
so yeah, this is filmed. This was also done in response to the eco performance workshop that I took with ECC Performance, the and really, I'm kind of recently relocated to this more rural area on a lake called Granbury, Texas. And so across the street from my community is a nature preserve. And so I wanted to respond to environmental issues that are specific to my community, but it's also, much larger. And that is the endangered bees, the pollinators. And so while I'm practicing a yogic breath, which is called Bhamari, and I call it the buzzy bee breath, and it's a vibrational breath done in your throat, and it calms the nervous system. And so I was doing that not only because it kind of sounds like a bee buzzing, but also that the idea was that I would put out these calming vibrations that would calm the bees, and so they would feel comfortable to pollinate. If you watch, it's very embarrassing, the ending. So I'm glad you didn't show that. If people want to watch it, they can. So
Well,
bees,
now you know everyone's
now
going.
everybody will watch it. Bees do this thing called the waggle dance,
Oh
and
my goodness.
yeah, so me doing the waggle dance is just totally embarrassing. Anyway, the waggle dance serves to let all the other bees in the area know that there's a food source.
Uh,
So yeah, anyway, there was, a conceptual framework as to why I was using the yogic breath and practicing the waggle dance. And also, I'm highly allergic to bees. So while I was calling them, I did not want them on my body. And I wanted them all very calm because I wanted to avoid a trip to the emergency room.
and I assume you did.
Yes,
Awesome.
yes, yes.
Okay, good. All right, we have two more that we're going to watch. And the next one is called Cocoon, which really just watching it got my claustrophobic self all worked up. Uh, okay, so let me see if I remember where I'm going here for to enlarge. Tell me again.
So I think there should be, you might have to choose where you want to start and then,
Okay,
yeah,
I
choose
think.
where you want to start first and click play, and then it should give you an option over on the right. Uh, yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah, there you go. And then down at the bottom right. Yeah.
got it. Yeah. Okay. I just had a lot of claustrophobia just watching that. My throat closed up and I was like, had a million questions about who saved you and how did you get in there. But uh, had to be hot and uh, you know, just raises a lot of questions about it being pink and fluffy and all tied up. So
Well, I'm part of a global artist network called the Alternative Art School, and I belonging, I've been part of that organization now for a few years, and it's really transformed my art practice. And again, living in a more rural area, I now have access and relationships with artists from all over the world. So I think it was in maybe January, they had a theme and they called people to make works that were with the theme of cocoon. And so I knew I wanted to do something with a cocoon, but that, as you could tell from the piece, this was not something that I could execute all by myself, you know? And so, and this is where in February, Erica Felicella had a workshop, and I was there with, you know, other performance artists, including Adam George and Danielle Giorgio and Nazanin. And so they were, so I had a safety net,
Mhm.
right? Because this was
Right.
very important that I had a safety net. And also I had people, they needed to, it took time to wrap me up, and then they had to like cut me out of it, right? So we were performing live, and it had to be on this site. And so originally there was like a little creek. I was going to do it down in the creek, but it would have been difficult for them to get to me. And yes, so anyway, there was this it wasn't abandoned, it belongs to somebody who has a studio there, who let us borrow that trailer. And I think because I liked that it was a combo kind of urban space, industrial space, but also had some green space. So you could hear the horned owl. The owls never hoot in the daytime, so that was really unusual. And you could see the trees. You could also hear the train. So that all of that was serendipitous. But I think because I was on a trailer, it looked like it had it definitely had a sense of foreboding, like there was a body dumped, right? And while I didn't mind that, that wasn't part of my initial concept. But I was thinking about this idea of cocoon, like a cocoon. When we think of cocooning, if you think of the butterfly, that it's about transformation, right? So there is a transformation, but like at what point, if you are feeling like safe and comfortable, does that become really uncomfortable and unsafe?
So true.
And so it was about pushing my body to the point where I was very uncomfortable, and I never felt unsafe, but it wasn't cold out. It was like 50 degrees. And so I didn't think that it was going to get that hot. And I didn't think that I would run out of breath so quickly. So I definitely started hyperventilating, and I had to cut the performance short because I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
And, you know, a big shout out to Erica and Danielle and Adam and Nazanin, because they were right there. Not only did they document, but they were right there, you know, cutting me out of it. So I would like to do this piece again. I normally don't re-perform pieces, but I want to do this in nature because I think it will have a completely different read. And I also would like to have an internal camera
Mm.
inside the blanket with me,
Right.
so that you can hear not only the movement of the blanket, but the sound of my breathing. And then that way the viewer is seeing both internal and external
Yeah.
views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And then pink, why pink? So
I
pink
think.
is my favorite color, but I think in a lot of my pieces, whether it's like the time of day that I'm shooting or how I use color, um, I use beauty as a tactic to seduce my viewers. And then, so there's always like something disturbing, something that's going to rupture that beauty. And so that's, you know, in a sense, the pink, it's like furry. My toenails match the color of the blanket, you know, so it has that kind of beautiful fashiony feel, but then it's very clear that through the movements, something is not right.
Yeah, and it pushes against nature, but not, and um, it's also my favorite color, one of my favorite. But you know, it has so many connotations to it too that, you know, everyone brings to pink and different types of pink. will conjure something different up for each person. And, doing that performance, say on a street, on a busy sidewalk or something in New York would be a whole different experience and different read.
And potentially not safe, right?
Right.
All of a sudden when you have you don't have your group, our audience was very controlled. Like people could be walking by and that was fine, but they were there,
Yeah,
as my support. If you're
right,
on a busy
right.
urban street corner, you no longer have that safety net.
Yeah. You definitely have to arrange different methods. Um, okay. So now we're going to go to our last video. This time we're going to look at plasterboard. And I want to start here and then go here. Look at me all learning. Um, that's really crazy because we just, I didn't even think about it till now. We just had the floods here and, just seeing that water even by itself. But I mean, my initial love of this piece is the, plastics in the environment, plastics in the body, this hybrid people we've become. So anyway, I'll let you speak about that.
Yeah, so another global artist group that I belong to is called Eco Art Space. And Patricia Watts is the founder of that and who is a curator and did a call. There's going to be a book that will come out next year that is specifically on plastics. And so it will be a repository of 100 different artists from around the globe that are making work about plastics. And the call title, or I think the title of the book was called Wicked Monstrous. And so when I saw that, it gave me the idea of creating this hybrid plastic monster. And so I'm sure most of us have read statistics that, you know, um, in utero, like
Mm.
people have plastics in the where it's in our bodies and it's passed on in utero. Men and their testes have plastics, and so I thought, well, what if that became a physical manifestation? And
Mhm.
so there were a couple of things. So uh I did work with my the cinematographer Jason Flowers, who I often work with. Some of the other kind of smaller performance pieces I just shot myself with a tripod and my iPhone. But because of the complexity of being in the water and how to shoot this, it required, like, we were out on a boat. The lake has a current, so there's constant movement, and and then we weren't sure. So here's the thing: people often say, well, what's the difference between like performance video and like a regular film,
Mm.
right? Or what's the difference between acting and theater and performance? So I'm just going to quote Marina Abramovic. Performance is real life. So most of the performance artists I know never practice. There is no practice. There is often a series of actions. So I had a series of actions, but until you're doing it, you just never know what's going to happen or how it's going to go. And so, I had all of these actions about acting like marine life and, this marine life trapped in a net and everything. But, then being out there, it's like I could barely float, and and then the water's really murky, so it's like you really couldn't see. Like I would have loved, even if the camera was underwater, you wouldn't be able to see anything because it's all murky. So I guess the good part of that is it certainly doesn't look like clean water. It's not. It's a human-made lake um, filled with all kinds of things. And so that was the one it was very challenging because it was very physically demanding. I also wasn't sure if the plastic was going to hold. So it was very important that my costume did not further contribute to
Right.
the plastic problem, right? So everything that we used was uh, repurposed, recycled. And I also was able to find a tape that was not plastic, but was silicone. So it was rubber based. And so then I felt better about like not using all of this plastic tape, right? Because obviously that can't be repurposed. So I didn't know if that was gonna hold in the water, you know? So I will say that, uh, Jason Flowers did an amazing job filming, under pretty challenging circumstances with all of the movement
Yeah.
and the shift in the currents and all of that, and shout out to my husband who was the boat captain who, threw me the life raft when I was struggling treading water.
Thank you.
And also, so I work with a composer, and I've worked with him for years, Dallin Peacock. And so I hope everybody will check back because he is finalizing the score for this piece. So
Awesome.
it's not done yet.
Yeah.
It's going to be done in the next week or so. And already I'm really excited,
Good.
for that. So I'm like very grateful to my collaborators who I couldn't do what I do without all
Right.
of the talented people that
Right. Right.
agree to work with me.
Yeah. And is this your boat or is it a boat that he was? Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
no, it's ours. Yeah.
Yeah. So that can really, yeah, that's awesome. Um, well, so I'm so glad that we could cover those. And so I think you kind of answered this, but I just, you know, I mean, you did, but like as far as like your next, like what does one idea or performance lead to the next? Is it what's happening with your groups? Is it, where do you keep a notebook of ideas? How do you develop your thinking and your trajectory?
It's that well, so the soundings is ongoing, so that is going to continue to develop and grow as it continues to be shown in different parts of Texas. And then I would also say I do get through the alternative art school and eco art space. So, for example, this summer, I will be doing a collaborative Adobe seed sculpture making workshop in New Mexico with Eco Art Space. And I am sure I don't know, perhaps I will make
Sure.
some on-site performances there. And then we're also same organization, but different artists. In October, we're going on the Pecos River to do a sound art mini residency together.
Yeah.
And so I'm really interested in collaboratively working
Right.
and like what could come out of that and having these experiences and one-on-one meaningful encounters with other artists, as a way to
Hmm.
draw inspiration. So I don't get inspiration from one singular source, but I do through these different groups that I'm part of, as well as just different workshops I'm taking. Definitely the ideas come from that.
I love that, the collaborative element. Well, that's all awesome. Is there anything else you want to tell us about what's coming up at this point? But of course, it's ongoing. So again, I'll have links where everyone can keep up with you.
Well, I'll also say super, I haven't done many artist residencies, I was always just busy teaching and raising a family and everything. So I'm super excited that I'll be going to the Sacred Valley of the Incas next March,
Awesome.
and I'll be responding to the land
Mhm.
there. So that's kind of near where Machu Picchu is. I've never been
Wow.
to that part of the world, and what a gift to be able to spend a month there and soak in not only the land, but the culture, the history. And so I'm excited about what the possibilities that might bring forward in my work, as well as um, I've started back on my Spanish lessons, so I'm very committed to be proficient in
Yes.
Spanish by next March when I'm there. So, I'm not the dumb American who doesn't speak the language.
Um, and you've traveled quite a bit. I mean, you've been to with the Fulbright and, gone to India 3 times, I believe, or more
Yes,
maybe.
yes.
And yeah, so the idea of experience and collaboration and, it's all wrapped up there. And
Yeah, I think the cross-cultural exchange is
yeah,
the probably the most beneficial experience in terms of growing as a person, not just an artist.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for doing all of this. It's amazing, and I'm so glad that we get to know more about you. And also, just want to give a quick shout out to again the Oak Cliff Cultural Center. Iris Bechtel is amazing in bringing people together as well. And she did had you there for a show, and I'll have mine coming up. But that's another way for people to physically engage. Um, but they'll have your website and everything and can follow you around to other places. So
Yeah, I mean, Oak Cliff Cultural Center has so many either very low cost or free programs for the community. Everything that we've talked about in terms of bringing art into the community, they are doing there, and are just an inspiration for how
really,
they support artists, community, and culture.
yeah, I mean, uh, they come up with, dance and, all kinds of ways to get involved. So anyway, well, thank you so much, Colette. It's been
Thanks,
awesome
Bonnie.
pleasure. And
And
I,
I look forward to our collaboration next
yes,
year.
yes,
Yeah.
have something coming up. We'll have to talk about that another time and tell everyone. So, well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye. Let me stop recording.